Hey there friends, I know I promised the Ocelot video this Sunday, but the build is getting kinda crazy and it's not ready yet. I might even stream some of the process next week. In the meantime, here's a quick simple video about the Addax habitat I built for the Gunters Gaming Community Zoo. Again, no spoilers for the rest of the zoo until it's ready. Join me. This build is very much based on the Bolo Bolo Addax habitat, which has a backdrop of hopefully somewhat of an accurate Northern African building. It's a simple habitat with dry plants all throughout and a moat that is overgrown with these desert and grassland plants and one gorgeous massive olive tree. I guess the only real challenge here for me was scale. What a surprise, right? I tend to build big habitats and kind of put animals' needs above guests' needs, and I tend to forget about the guests' experience. But since this community zoo somewhat requires us to build smaller, I really had to go against my nature here and my natural instincts. So the initial scale was too big. And the next attempt, also too big. Third time around, we went with it. Psst. Here's a secret, it's still too big, but Sparrow is either a saint or she hasn't noticed yet. So let's talk about where we are here in the build. We are simply building a very basic shelter for the Addax. The shelter, as was the shelter of the Pygmy Hippo, is based on the entrance building made by Gunters Gaming, because as I've mentioned, this is going to be part of a community zoo that a lot of other builders are creating, and there's quite a lot of habitats already finished, but it is not up to me to reveal what's been built in that zoo. I think I'm going to stick with this theme of the entrance building for as much as possible while adding variations to it, as I did here. So we took the color scheme of the orange and the brown, but we added like the plaster elements, and to make it a bit more Northern African, to the extent that I, a European guy, know enough about North Africa. If you've been following Bolo Bolo, then you know that I've extensively built in the African theme, and the untoured part of that zoo sort of has some kind of garish, outlandish buildings in this style. So to top it off, we add this structure at the top. We don't surround the whole building with it because this is just a front-facing shelter. The guests don't necessarily need to see the back. And then we add these two dome-capped towers on top, which you see me build here. Add some of these nice arches in a nice color to contrast with the orange. Multiply it 4 times, adding some mosaics and tiles and the like, making sure that the color is matching with the color scheme of the whole building. And then we go right ahead and add one of these domes on it, also in the brownish color. We select it and move it over to the other side to make sure it looks more or less symmetrical. So that is it for the shelter. And yeah, guys, I showed you my struggle before with the scale. The Planet Zoo required sizes for animals is so much smaller than I usually like to think it is. This is so small. Looking at this as a habitat for several Addaxi, Addae. It looks so small, but that is the size that they want. That is the size they're comfortable with. To me, it just looks very small, and I like to build much bigger than this. But this is this size. So we go on ahead and add the moat that we did in the previous 2 iterations, which were much too big, because from the outset the idea was this very big steep moat that is filled with rocks and overgrown with bushes. Not necessarily something the antelope couldn't traverse, but something that they wouldn't really be in a mood to traverse. Let's put it like that. So we go ahead and smooth out these strange little artifacts to make sure it looks natural. We add, with the chisel tool, we add some natural indentations. And then we make sure that the cover here looks a bit natural with soil and sand and rock to, you know, make it look a bit more diverse. Then we add these little outcroppings and also make sure that the land itself has some, you know, variations in height, which is always nice. And then we go do the nice little process of grouping faux rocks and sinking them somewhat into terrain. A lot of these faux rocks will eventually be covered with foliage, but it's always nice to have this sort of foundation at the bottom of your moat. So you see I already have the Addax in here. That was just to check their traversable terrain. We make sure that this big outcropping, by the way, you see the olive tree here. I changed my mind eventually and I moved the olive tree to the side because right now it just obstructs the view of the shelter at the back. Then we sink these faux rocks into the ground. We have a little think about what to add here. And we go for, I seem to remember, the polyepsis tree. There we go, we grab it, we put it here. Again, this will be swapped with the olive tree eventually. And adding some more bushes to add some variations in color here, because the color scheme for the moat will be, you know, it will have the Nitraria plant mostly, which is my favorite plant to have used. There you go, there it is. It's all over Bolo Bolo. You could say it is the trademark Bolo Bolo plant. It's just, I love this plant so much. Yeah, I've been spamming it for the past 12 months of my life, but I'm still in love with the plant. And yeah, this is what the moat looks right now. A lot of what remains is just adding plants. In the moat, we add these dry plants, the dry version of the Nitraria plant, all over the moat, just to make sure, you know, it's logical that with any plant, any bush, you will have living parts of that plant and you'll have dead parts of the plant. Go check out any bush and you'll see that is the case. And then we sink part of that in the ground just to have these, you know, especially around the rocks, more shadow and texture. We take these flowered versions of the Nitraria and we start adding it to, you know, just to have nice little flowers for the Addax to live around. And we add it wherever I put the rocks because that felt like the most obvious place for me to put the plants. I'm just following my instincts here. The main thing I can tell, if you say, hey, your plant work is impressive, how do you do it? I just put plants wherever it feels like I need to put plants, and it's hard to say anything more intelligent than that. If I see some rocks, I think, hey, there should be plants between these rocks. If I see a corner in a habitat, I think, hey, you know what, this corner needs a plant, right? The final part of this modest, simple build is just stealing this wall from the pygmy hippo, putting it here to make sure it looks, you know, a bit logical, and then we'll go ahead and put it on the other side as well, just to close off this moat. I didn't include in the recording that I did have like a retaining wall in orange here under the path to hide the ugly terrain from view. I didn't put that in the video, but there you go. That is this habitat done.